How's everyone doing? Good?
Here we go.
I want to take the next 30 minutes or so here and give you all an opportunity to ask any questions at the end, whether it be about assignments, how to get assignments, how not to get assignments, anything that you may have. The question always comes up about the split season. People always want to know about that, new rules and stuff like that. So I'll start out by covering what I want to talk about today, 2019 rule changes, some potential rule changes that we are considering, some trends in soccer that we're seeing, and then what the focus areas from an NCAA standpoint should be for this next season. So the rule changes, that's going to be real quick because we don't have any yet. The meeting, our Rules Committee meeting is coming up March 12th and 13th in Indianapolis. This is a non-rule change year, so there will not be anything major changing. However, what we can do in a non-change year and what we will do is we will make any interpretation modifications depending on what IFAB comes out with here very soon as well. I think in the next week or two, somebody may know the exact date better than I do. But so we may see some interpretation or clarification changes as far as that goes. But to give you all just an idea about what some potential changes that we have been discussing, eliminating overtime. Yeah, exactly. Their Division I is pretty much, won't say 100%, but a high percentage for that, where we run into some of the issues at Division II and III where they are focused a little bit more on the participation aspect. Eliminating sub-reentries in the second period, so making all the substitutions the same for both periods. Again, something that there's a split between Division I versus II and III on. Requiring bench personnel and subs except for the head coach to be seated. I'm not going to get into how we would enforce that, but I'm sure Chris would find a way. It's a joke. You can laugh, Chris. The referee to keep the official time, which it actually passed last year, and then there was, because there was about a 68% favor rate that came back on the surveys from the coaching side, and then the Division I coaches got together, Division I women specifically, just caused a major uproar about it. And so we actually pulled it off the table, as you may remember. And then finally designating only the team captain as the individual that can speak to the referees. So again, the surveys that you all get is very important because if something does not have, we look for greater than a 50% favorable rating, then we don't even put it on the table to consider. So those are important, the surveys that you get. They basically determine what is on the agenda for discussion. Gary.
So how does a rule change become a change? How does that actually happen? Once you go through all your...
Yeah, the process is it's discussed, voted on by the Rules Committee, which is a member of, it's in the rule book, it's a member of a committee of 10 made of representation, some coaches, some athletic directors across all divisions and genders, myself, Ken Andrus, and I'm pleased to announce the new active official on the Rules Committee is Christina Ibanez Uncle. I'm pleased to have her on the committee now, and that's a two-year appointment in that place. So I'm happy to get Christina's perspective. And then after it is voted on by the Rules Committee, it goes to the NCAA called PROP, which is Oversight committee of university presidents that give the final blessing to it. Typically, it is kind of a rubber stamp, but we've had situations where it has not been in that. So that's the basic process. Some trends. Again, these trends are actually from a year ago because I don't have yet, if this seminar were a week from now, I would probably have the updated data, but the NCAA didn't have it complete. I don't expect it to change very much, but just to give you all just an idea here, I won't go through each bullet. I'll give you kind of just a minute to read through those, but these were some of the trends that we saw. The interesting one, I think, would be the increase in red cards. We'll see what that does. And I can get you all the final stats. We can put it up on the website for everyone too in another week or two. We did see an increase in red cards. I don't think there's any surprise there on the number of fouls. And when we broke down the yellow cards by gender and division, you can see, if I get this pointer to, you can see here that there is, on the men's side, quite a bit of an increase when we go from Division 1 to Division 3 with the number of red cards. And on the women's side, we see the opposite effect, more send-offs in Division 1 women compared to 2 and 3. So looking ahead to this season, what we're focused on from an NCAA perspective, and it shouldn't be any surprise to anyone here, any different from any of the other assigners in the room, you know, Joe, Manny, probably missing a few others, but student athlete safety is the #1 emphasis and should always be the primary focus. And when I talk about that, I'm focused on foul severity, reckless versus excessive force tackles, right in line with what Kermit was discussing this morning. So this is a good segue to that. It's interesting when I talk to a lot of the coaches on these various committees, their comments seem to always be, well, if this were a pro game, that would be a red card. Why is it not a send-off in a collegiate game? And I don't have a real good answer for them on that. It's somewhat of a mentality. Again, there are subtle nuance differences, which we could probably spend a whole day talking about those, but I'll get into a few of them. But we want to close that gap of how we enforce excessive force tackles. And I'll show you some clips. We won't get into as much of the analysis on them as Kermit did, just due to my time frame here, and I want to focus more time on some fighting stuff, which is kind of a emphasis we're going to be talking about this year. #2 would be non-soccer plays. Anybody have any idea what I mean by a non-soccer play? Okay, that's a good one. What, strike, punch? Yeah. Yeah. Cheap shots. Who else? Anybody else? What? Headbutts? Yeah, that's non-soccer play. Hair pulling, of course. Yep. So these are the areas. It's kind of like we know it when we see it, correct? So this is where we feel like we need to tighten up enforcement, be a little bit more strict on these, quote, non-soccer plays, and that's an open-ended statement, obviously, but I'll show you some examples of what I'm referring to. Fighting. More than half of the 58 protests were involved fighting that was being protested by the coach because he or she did not feel that it should have been a fighting red card. We have a major problem in this area about what is fighting and what isn't. And it's not really any of us in the room. It's the way that the rule is written. So we're going to spend a considerable amount of time next month in the committee trying to redefine what a fighting is and what it isn't, what it should be and what it should not be. because the interpretation is way too wide and it leaves too much room open for interpretation. When the rule was put into place, I think it was almost to the point that, well, we all know it when we see it. We know what a fight is when we see one. And then that hair pull happened in wherever that was, New Mexico, I think, the one that made ESPN and all that stuff. And so then that was added. So I'll spend some time today talking about fighting, how we want to determine that going forward, and give you some of my thoughts on it. Men's and women's officiating, I think, Tori, you're going to get into that a little bit more. Okay, so I'll kind of skip over that piece, but I think that's important. You know, Joe, you probably see this quite a bit too. Again, it's soccer. Okay, the laws of the game, the rules of the game are the same, but what are just the subtle differences, the nuance differences between men and women, between PDL on one night and a Division III game on the next night to a Division I game 2 days later. And some of you all in the room here are very, very good at doing that. And then video review. I think we need to all put more focus on the video review. It's off to a much slower start, so to speak, than what I would like to see. A lot of it is on some of the major, especially the Power 5 conferences. They want all the bells and whistles, all or none. So not picking on any particular school, but if Mississippi State doesn't have the same equipment as Oklahoma has, then it's kind of all or none. So we're working with some conferences, the major conferences, on kind of getting away from that, because if we can correct something on the field and do what's right for the student athlete at the time, then, if it can eliminate a protest and get the call right, then that's really the goal here. So, you know, we don't need 4, 5, 6 camera angles. Well, I saw several goal, no goal scenarios that really could have been determined by an iPad if it were to be used. So, cover off on that. So Kermit had a great lead in here, and I won't spend a whole lot of time here since Kermit did such a great job on it, but we do want to begin to speak the language of the FIFA considerations when we're determining foul severity, punishment, and whatnot. So point of contact, the level of force, talking about speed and intensity. Does the player have an opportunity to play the ball? Part of body that is used to make a challenge, and position of the body of the player committing the challenge. So this may be a little more of an abbreviated version of your sheets here, but it's basically the same. It's basically, we're all want to begin to talk this sort of language and put this into, you made a great point with the report writing when you're communicating with the coaches, the technical staff, you know, with the players. You know, if you tell a coach, you know, versus, as an example, you know, straight leg versus bent, that's giving a little bit more of an, and it's hard for them to kind of argue or question that. Of course, they'll find a way, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. So I'll talk a little bit about, show a few clips here on challenges, reckless versus excessive force. And again, I've only got 20 more minutes, so we won't get into the analysis depth that we can, but I want to just take a look at some of these here. Kermit, go ahead, please. We'll let you see one more angle of this. Who's got a yellow card? Show of a yellow card. No? No yellow cards? Really? The referee gave a yellow card. Red card? Red card? Okay. Why? Why is this a red card? Point of contact? Straight leg? Speed intensity? Right. Lunging? Lunging? Yeah. Over the top of the ball. So this, we want to see a send-off. We want to see that this is an excessive force challenge. Okay, next. Yellow card? No? Couple? Red card? Okay. Jared, why? Okay, force. Speak up so everybody can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The force of the challenge, the leg is straight, the studs go into the knee, and splits it put off the ground.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, we want to see a red card here. I don't care that it's a collegiate game versus this other type game. Okay, Kermit, next. Anything.
Red card in that other game.
You have, yeah. Anybody? Can you read lips?
How's your mother doing?
We'll have a good angle here on the replay. Foul only? Only a foul? Yellow? No, put them up. It's fine. Yellows? Half? Half yellows? Reds? And then half didn't, a third didn't vote. So, yeah. So, whoever had the yellow, real quick, why do you have yellow on this one? Why is this a caution? Yes, sir. Speak up.
Area of contact's low, speed.
So speed not very fast? Lower? Okay.
It sucks that it's right in front of the technical area. I want to go red there, but I feel like if we go red there, we're going to finish the game with 7v7.
Okay. All right, then who's got the other side red?
Studs are up.
Gentleman says studs are up. Okay. Where's the point of contact?
Right where the ball goes above the ankle.
Top of the foot, maybe versus, yeah.
Originally it's a yellow card, but now I look at it, his leg is completely straight, his toe is to the sky, so the point of their feet is not where it needs to be, and it's late. I mean, he's not challenging the ball at the same time.
Okay. All right, so again, we could probably spend more time on this one, but do we all agree this is a orange?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next. Or do you want to add something?
No. I was going to give you an orange card.
Oh, orange. There we go. Orange.
The ball is not there.
Okay, foul only. This is good. All right. Yellow? 2/3 yellows, I'd say. Red? Orange. Okay. Why? Somebody walk through real quickly your considerations. Does come from a distance, right?
Yeah, excessive force.
With speed. Okay.
Pretty much from behind because he couldn't really see him either coming.
You think from behind?
Challenge is actually from the front though, right?
Louder?
I feel like the challenge is actually coming from the front. He's coming around and
I would agree with that. Yeah, more
The
from the
defender
front, from
came
the side.
from the blind
Yeah.
spot, so the black player could not.
Is there an opportunity to play the ball? No. Okay. Up here, David.
I got 3 pounds of pressure on that kneecap, and he's gonna
High to the knee.
ruin that guy's career doing that.
Okay, so
That's a very bad.
do we agree? This is orange? Okay. All right. So this will get a, yes, Joe.
There's seems to be a trend in so many of the video clips that are being shown so far, is a player in possession of the ball, plays the ball, and then gets fouled. Which I think there's a real lesson here for the referees to wait a second before following that ball.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, you can get away with yellow here because by the time the guy makes contact with the player, he's almost, some of the force is gone because of where he hits the ground here, but this is very dangerous for the defender who's clearing the ball. He's got a foot stationary on the ground. I mean, he's unprotected. If you're gonna follow the ball, you're gonna miss this. You gotta just keep an eye a little bit late and see what happens after the guy makes that clearance.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, let's talk about non-soccer plays and fighting. Somebody want to read that loudly?
Fight is defined as a deliberate strike or punch, or an attempt to strike or punch another player, official, coach, or bench personnel. These acts include, but are not limited to, kicking, headbutting, hair pulling, or an open-handed strike if done in a deliberately and in a malicious manner.
Okay. So how can I send a player, how can I give a red card for violent conduct and it not be considered technically a fight by this rule? Somebody here just said you can't. Anybody else?
An elbow, an open play, like one in midfield.
that's a strike.
Okay.
By the way it's written, you can't.
How?
Ryan, I think there's an instructional clip sent about this earlier in 2018. What?
Speak up.
Sorry, there's an instructional clip sent on this in 2018, and I believe that the situation was completely off of the ball, and somebody running across, and the player just stood there and charged them as they were off.
So we're not challenging for the ball, you're saying?
Yes, correct.
Okay, it doesn't say that here, but I would agree that should be part of your decision-making process. So I will give you the answer if done in a deliberate and malicious manner. What does malicious mean? What does malicious mean?
Intent to injure.
It's in the opinion of the referee what malicious means. We're going to define using video what a fight is and what a fight is not. We're going to try to close this gap. We're going to come out with several videos, examples of this is a fight and this is not, that could be kicking, striking, and all this. And I'll show you some videos here as my video guy just went away. Oh, all right. Sure. All right. Let's assume that the black-colored jersey player, let's assume that we send him off Okay, it cannot be serious foul play. Do we all agree with that? Okay. Okay, we can stop playing it. Okay. So is this a fight?
Well, it's a one-man fight. By the definition of fight.
Who's going to write this up as a fight? Nobody? Okay, this one was. Was it malicious?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's worth a 2-game suspension?
Yes.
Really? No, I know you're not writing that. You're not writing that. Correct. Correct.
To the Achilles, it's taking a big chance.
What do you think, Corey?
I just walked in and
Oh, Chris, what do you think? 2 games. No, well, do you think it's a fight?
2 games, but I don't think it's a fight.
Okay. All right. If you don't think this is a fight, this, in my opinion, would not be considered a fight. Okay, this would not be characterized as a fight.
Why does the fight not include 2 people? In other words,
The reason why it doesn't is because of the hair pulling is when this started. Okay. So this one, in my opinion, I'm only giving you my opinion on this. Okay, this would not be, some of these there's not going to be a correct right or wrong answer, but this would not be considered a fight. Okay, let's move on to the next clip. Here we go.
Who do you think I get the clip from?
Oh, did you show this? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we can stop it. That's enough of camera angles of this. Who thinks this is a fight? Well, I mean, we all agree this is a red card, correct? Okay. But this, after the fact, push to the player's face ahead. Okay, this is an example of a deliberate and malicious type of act. So we would support this incident being written up as fighting. Okay, this is a non-soccer type of play, a cheap shot after the fact. And we don't have time now to get into analyze, how the referee particularly managed this. But the point here is to give an example. This is supported as a fight. In the back.
I can write the first one if you're saying that one's not a fight.
Let's not go down the rabbit holes with that right now. It's not a bad question necessarily. Okay, but in the opinion of the referee, okay, based on the malicious manner that this was done to the player's head, the contact above the shoulder to the face. Okay, one more question on this one. Go ahead.
as far as just in general, is the real, when we talk about the fighting, it really is about the idea of using that category to be more excessive in the punishment of the participant? Is that really where we're at?
Look, I define a fight. Again, this is my opinion. I cannot put this in writing. I define a fight is this act. Can you go back to the definition, Kermit? Go back a couple slides. Is this act included but not limited to kicking, headbutting, hair-pulling, open-handed strike? Is it worth a 2-game versus a 1-game? I'm going to show you the next clip, I believe, that was a strike. that it will show you what I'm talking about. But this, after the fact, head to the, shoving the player's head into the ground, this is more severe than a 1-game suspension, in my opinion.
Has nothing to do with soccer.
Okay, and nothing to do with soccer. Okay, next one. May have been a little bit hard to catch, so let's look at that one again. Right there. Okay, it's a strike. Is it a strike? Yes? Was it a malicious type strike? Was it a malicious type of strike? I would say no. My opinion, no. Okay, so this was, and I don't even know who the referee was at this point. It doesn't even matter. This was written up as a fight because the referee felt like their hand was tied due to the definition, the technical definition of the rule. Okay, so this one I would recommend that this is not considered as a fighting. Okay, I have no problem with the send-off with the red card for striking, but to categorize this as a fight is a little bit harsh. And again, this was one of the protests that came in. Okay? Yeah. All right, next. Watch number 20. Let's show that one more time and watch the white jersey player number 20 right there. Okay, stop it. Let's assume that it's hard to tell from this, but he strikes the opponent in the lower body, back wherever you want to say. Okay, and you're the referee and you decide to send this player off. I'm not going to get into maybe it could have been a caution or anything of that. Let's assume that you give a red card for this. Okay, is this a fight? Yes. Why? Why? In your opinion, you're saying malicious intent. Who disagrees? What's the counter of this? Who sees this as not a fight? Anybody?
Sure. I mean, there's some sure, why not? Yeah, why not? You know, was contact, was it malicious from the standpoint that it's the upper body, he's coming down low, and it's pansy. It's a cheap shot from behind, but it wasn't something that was maliciously endangering unless he's directly got it in the kidney or something. It's a smack.
Okay. All right. So you don't think this is severe enough for 2-game suspension?
I agree with that.
No? You don't? Anybody else does? You do, right? Okay, one more comment in the back, in the red.
If we accept this, what did Herb used to say? What we don't deal with, we encourage. If this is not a 2-game suspension, all of our games are going to they're just going to the...
You can say it.
We haven't heard it.
Our game's going to go...
Games. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is getting you all thinking about how we further define the definition, I hope. I'm not going to give you I'm not sure there is a right answer here. But again, it's your thought process that goes into this. Let's go to the next one. We'll let this, we're going to have to go back and look at this again. And it's
Right there at the brown spot.
right there. Everybody catch that? A weapon, correct? Off the ball, late, no chance of playing the ball. So it's clear this is a red card, and this one should be written up as fighting. Want to see it one more time? This one, yeah, it's a little tough to see. Behind the referee there. Okay. Non-soccer play. Next clip. So the blue jersey player, number 20, swings and makes contact with number 5. He's sent off. I think the referee handles this well. This was written up as a fight against number 20 of UMKC, and there was a protest on this. Number 19, I meant. Fight? Red card. Put a red card if you have a fight. A yellow card if you have a red card, but a non-fight. A non-fight red card. Or orange. So we have some of those. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. At least we're throwing the guy out. Next clip. I've only got 5 minutes, so we're gonna.
Well, now they're lipping. Oh, and here it comes.
Keep watching.
Looking right at it. And she eyes going right. They are can see it.
Okay. All right. Let's bring it back. Bring it back, please. We all should have a red card. Okay. And this, in my opinion, should be written up as a fight. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, please. So I'll kind of close on a few things. I was gauging the reaction and some of the comments on these clips just to kind of help me go forward as we define these and several others with the Rules Committee, and then with my committee, which of the regional advisors, which you probably all know who they are. Rachel, Joe, Grady, Manny, who's in here, and Sandy, and Roger. So again, the goal here, as I said, is to come out with a more defined definition and examples of what's fight and what is not a fight. Real quick, I just want to touch on what my thoughts are keys to success. I've only got a few more minutes here, but preparation, that's not only on the field stuff, knowledge of the rules, homework on players, what does the game mean, conference, non-conference, all that sort of stuff, but also your preparation, personal preparation during the season. Are you doing too many games? Are you training too much, not training enough, getting enough rest, recovery, hydration, all that stuff. Practical versus technical. Again, it's easy to follow everything in here, but as those who've been around remember Alfred, the old Alfred, when do you bend and when you don't, I think is vitally important to understand. Not overreacting, don't see something that nobody else sees is key when you talk about practical applications. Player management, I think that's kind of the meat and potatoes of what we do. It includes your communication, reading the game, matching your reaction, your intensity to what just happened on the field, managing player frustrations and moods and all that piece of it. Transitioning, I think you're going to talk about that. I'll kind of skip over that piece for now. The fitness piece, we talk about fitness a lot, but we cover 5 to 8 miles in a game, and a number of 45 plus sprints. We're running over 25% of the time during a game, so being at the right place in the right time, we could talk about a lot of that. Be open for learning. I have a new vice president at my real job, regular job, I shouldn't say real, regular job, day job, and is a 63-year-old guy that's been around for a long time, very, very smart. I don't know why he's still working. He should be retired, but whatever. But he says to me in our first meeting, he says, I'm looking forward to learning from you. And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell are you going to learn from me? And it's just I started thinking about that, and after a few months, I'm like, he's been around in his career. He's on the down part of his career, and he still wants to learn stuff. And I just thought it's so applicable to what we do as well. And student of the game, knowledge. Let's go on to the next one, please. These are our NCAA seminars. I know Gary's going to touch a little bit. Gary and I had a real good talk a couple times now over the last few weeks, so we're going to do some stuff together on these. And I left no time for questions, I see, because I'm 1 minute over, but can we see if there's one or two? We just ask. 1 or 2 questions?
Can you have striking without fighting?
Yes. We'll leave it at that. That's right. Yes, you can. Any other questions about any non-fighting, non-misconduct type questions? Anybody want to know about the double season?
Yes.
Where that's going? It's going nowhere fast. They're still pushing for it. Mainly the Division I men's coaches look at it a little bit different. They look at it more at developing of the athlete to go to MLS versus even the Division I women and Division IIs and IIIs. So there's it makes perfect sense if you think about the number of games from mid-August to mid-November is just incredible, the lack of rest time. So it does make sense, but you're getting into a lot of budget issues, teams in the Northeast with lacrosse that is big with field conflicts and kind of turf battles in that sense. So there's still going to be a push for it, but it's not on the horizon for at least the next year or two.
The weather has a lot to do with that too, right?
Well, and the weather, yeah. Of course, you could say if you stop in November and pick back up in March, it would make better sense weather-wise. So I appreciate the invite here from Gary and Lance. It's been my pleasure to come and see you all today. Thank you very much.